So up until now, again, they've been giving us they've been giving us 3 sides, and we say yes it works or no it doesn't work. Today, they're only going to give us 2 sides. And we're going to have to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the 3rd side. So page 70 is solve for the hypotenuse. Page 71 is practice. Here we go. Solving for the hypotenuse. So the first thing we're going to do, again, we're using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We're assuming that these are all right triangles because they have this 90-degree box in them. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to substitute. And we're going to substitute. Substituting means what?
Replacing something, a number.
We're going to replace. So instead of a variable, we're going to replace it with a number. We're going to substitute. After we substitute, we're going to simplify. What does that mean, simplify? Make it easier, make it smaller, right? Now, there's a step right here that we're going to kind of skip today, but I want you to just start practice saying it because it's going to be useful tomorrow or the next day, is solve. And then last is square root. So we're going to substitute, which means put it into the problem. Put numbers in place of variables, substitute. Simplify means to make it easier. Solve means to get the variable alone. Today, solving is probably going to happen already for us, so we don't need to get to that point. And then the last part is square root. So let's test it out. These numbers are hard to read. I apologize. This is 8.7 and 13.1. You can read the 13.1 better. So again, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The Pythagorean theorem is what we use for right triangles. Step number 1 is to substitute. What number goes in for a? 8.7, because it's the smallest. It's the smallest leg. Squared plus, what should I put in for b?
13.1.
Equals, and I don't know my hypotenuse. There's no number there, so I can leave it as c squared. Because again, remember, the legs make the 90-degree angle. The legs make the letter L. The legs are what make the 90-degree angle. The hypotenuse is the third diagonal long side. So number 1 was substitute. We just did that. Step number 2 is to simplify. So I'm going to do 8.7 squared plus 13.1 squared equals, do you know what c squared is? No. Substitute. We did that here. Simplify, I made it easier. But the great thing about using this for the hypotenuse is that simplify and solve can kind of go together. Because in my calculator, I can type in 8.7 squared plus 13.1 squared because they're on the same side of the equal sign, so I can do them together. Or you can do it step by step and then add these two together to get 247.3 equals c squared. So you're telling me that this piece of the triangle is 8.7. This piece of the triangle is 13.1. And this piece is 247.3. Does that make sense? No. You don't have to divide it by itself. I like how you're thinking. You know that something times itself, something squared, right, makes this big number. The inverse, the opposite of squaring, is square root. So, to get to the square root, it's above the squared button. See it? This one up here that has an X with it is not what we want. We only want the square root button. So it's in green. So we have to press the green second button and then this button to get the square root sign. And then I'm going to type in 247.3 and press enter. Let's round to the nearest hundredth. What would the answer be? 15 point, and then the hundredths. 100 has 2 zeros, so 2 decimal places. That 2 is going to be my last, but I look behind it to the 5 and get 7.3. Does that make sense? If this side is 8.7 and this side is 13.1, that this piece would be approximately 15.73? That makes more sense. Let's try the next one. We can find the missing side length. Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Substitute. What's my a value? 1. Plus, what's my b value? Equals c squared. Substitute. Simplify. You're going to need a calculator today. Make sure you've got it. I'm going to do 1 squared plus 1.4 squared because I can do them together since they're on the same side of the equal sign. 2.96 equals c squared. Substitute. Simplify and solve. Go together. What's my last step? What's step number 4? Square root. So second, x squared gives me my square root button. And 2.96. Oops. Point. Let's do nearest tenth. What would C approximately be nearest tenth? 1.7. Tenth, one place, right? You have to pay attention to what they're asking you to round to. I want to talk through this example. I'm going to change these numbers though. I'm going to make this number 8. And I'm going to make this number 13. I'm going to change the values just so that we can talk about what our calculators sometimes show us. So we're going to substitute. Again, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. What's my a value? 8. What's my b value? 13. And my c value, I don't know. Today, we're always going to be looking for the c value. Simplify and solve can go in the same step because these numbers are on the same side. 8 squared plus 13 squared equals 233. And it always helps to think to ourselves, okay, if this is 8 and this is 13, can this be 233? No, that doesn't. Oh, I forgot my last step. What's my last step? Square root. So I'm going to do the square root of 233. And my calculator shows me this weird button, or this weird answer. It says the square root of 233 is the square root of 233. When you get something weird that looks like that, remember, press this conversion button. That conversion button's always the one that saves us. What's my answer? Let's do hundredth. Hundredth, nearest hundredth. 15.26. All right, you try a few on your own. This is 6.1 and this is 6. Try that one. Substitute, simplify, solve, and last but not least, square root. Substitute, simplify, solve,